Hi there, welcome back from your contemplation of the way that we form first impressions and how this might impact on your practice. Now we're going to have a little look at attribution theory. So this is a theory about how we attribute other people's actions. So what we attribute other people's actions to. So attribution theory was discovered by Franz Heider. And the theory is based on how and why people do the things they do. So we attach and assume meanings to the behaviours of others in our day-to-day life, and as such we try to explain what people do and why they do it. So attribution theory is about explaining the causes of others' behaviours. So we describe people's behaviours as either being caused by internal or external factors. So internal factors are things like the person's disposition, their personality, their biological makeup, all sorts of things like that, which are about the internal person. External or environmental events outside the person's control are other factors that we attribute people's homework to. So, for example, if Joe doesn't do his homework, we might say, well, Joe is a lazy student, and that would be an internal attribution. If Joe's dog ate his homework, then we would attribute the fact that Joe doesn't have his homework to the fact that his dog ate it, which would be an external attribution. So let's have a look at an example. Sally didn't make it for her date with Joe on Friday night. So why didn't Sally make that date? A, Sally forgot. B, Sally was stuck in traffic. C, Sally was in the hospital. Or D, Sally found a hotter date. Hotter date's my personal favourite. But which of these are internal and which are external? I'll just give you a second to think about that before we go to the next slide. Okay, so A, Sally forgot was internal, and D, Sally found a hotter date were internal. B, Sally was stuck in traffic was external, and C, Sally was in hospital was external. Do you think that's true? So what we are thinking about here is the fundamental attribution error. So most people would suggest she missed the date for an internal reason and not because of the circumstances within her environment. When I was supposed to catch up with a friend on Saturday and then she cancelled and sent me a text to say, oh, let's change it to Sunday, but I didn't answer the text until after the time she'd suggested on Sunday morning, and then when I tried to call her on Sunday afternoon, I was like, oh, she must be mad with me because I didn't return her text. So that's attributing it to something internal. That she is mad with me, but actually it could have been something external, like that she's a massage therapist and she'd come to Sydney, like that she was actually giving someone a massage at the time, which was the case. So that attribution error that I made then, that she was mad with me rather than that she was giving someone a massage, is what we're referring to when we refer to the fundamental attribution error. So the fundamental attribution error is the tendency to overestimate the influence of internal factors in a person's behaviour and to underestimate external factors. So when we are asked to guess why people behave the way that we do, we're more likely to blame an action on an internal flaw of the person than an environmental factor. So this is the fundamental attribution error, and it has implications for our clinical practice and particularly in the assumptions that we make. So things to consider. When someone doesn't follow their treatment plan, is it my fault or is it their fault? Or could there be another explanation? Now, an example of this is a personal fitness trainer who had a client. The client hurt themselves, broke their ankle rather badly, and didn't come back to the personal fitness trainer. Now, the trainer was thinking, oh, it's because the client doesn't trust me to rehabilitate them. But when they actually later found out, or later got the actual explanation, it was because it was actually a very tricky break that had happened and the person needed particular equipment in order to rehabilitate themselves, which the personal trainer didn't have because she does her personal training outside. And so when the client came back, he said to her to train, which he did. He was like, I would have liked to have come back earlier, but I needed this special equipment which you don't have. So that is an example of a fundamental attribution error and the kinds of errors that we commonly make. So I'm as likely to make the error myself. Do I blame myself for poor performance, or do I blame the environment and other people? Most people are aware of external factors in their own behaviour, but not in the behaviour of others. So this is the take-home message. With the fundamental attribution error, it's important to remember we may think other people are defective in some way after failing to consider the impact of the environment on their decisions or actions. And this can be corrected if we imagine we are the other person and try to explain the behaviour from our own point of view. So it's the whole don't judge someone until you've walked 1,000 miles in their moccasins kind of idea. And try to remember the environmental situation a person is in plays a powerful role in their actions. For example, someone who is otherwise a kind of kind and gentle person might act very might act in a really authoritarian way when they are dressed as a prison guard or dressed in a uniform. And this is also something that people do when they dress up, cosplay and those kinds of things as well. So remember that in the environmental situation, the dress or the situation that a person is in also affects the way that they might act. So, something to think about in terms of the fundamental attribution of the error. Just stop for a moment now and brainstorm some examples from your own experience or life of the fundamental attribution error. So I came up with one before about my friend who I thought might be a little bit annoyed with me on Sunday and ended up she was doing a massage. Now think about how this error impacts on the professional relationship you have with the client.